Konnichiwa party peeps, MangaMan here.
And Kitty.
And we're here to finally talk spoiler talk on the movie Alita Battle Angel that we saw a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it was really good.
By the time this review comes out, it'll be a month ago. But despite that, we are here to talk a little bit more in depth on this movie, how it can relate in some aspects from what we remember back then to the manga, as well as other thoughts that we might have had. Now, to be warned, it has been a week since we last saw this movie. We were going to see it last night, but Google lied to us and the movie theater was not playing it. So we ended up seeing a different movie instead.
We saw Captain Marvel.
Which we'll probably talk about in another video, maybe. Maybe. Anyways, so if you haven't seen our spoiler-free review and wanted a plot synopsis on that, go into the bottom description box here. I'll have a link to the previous video. Watch that before watching this so that you can understand what we're talking about here. If you don't want to be spoiled on the movie, go to the link below, watch that video first, see the movie, then come back here. Okay? Okay. So with all that said, for those that want to stick around for spoilers, we're here to talk about how amazing the movie was able to adapt its source material.
Yes.
Starting with, I guess I'll kind of start things off here, if that's okay with you, huh? What amazed me was with how much they were able to get away with the PG-13 rating for this movie, despite it being rated PG-13, because a lot of the characters are cyborgs, they got away with a lot of stuff. One of the characters who was fighting Alita, and don't mind me, I'm just going to be paging through some reference material that I have, thanks in part to Abby Bernstein and her lovely collection of illustrations and stuff based on the movie. But there was one fight in particular where the PG-13 really didn't matter, where Alita kicks a cyborg into the side of a building so hard their head gets embedded in the wall and the rest of the body just limps on the floor and you see blue blood squirting from the orifices.
Yeah.
PG-13.
It was cool.
Very cool. I guess we could talk about some of the differences that they had in the movie. I guess just go straight into one of the biggest differences is some of the naming conventions. Now, I don't know how much of this is true. I haven't looked it up yet. But I know based off of the manga, some of the names in here are a lot different from what they ended up being named for in the movie. Some of the names, you know, they Americanized it, like Daisuke Ido was changed to Dyson Ido for the movie, which, that makes sense. But then you've got other characters, like in the manga, Makaku, the big brute that Alita has for a first enemy. That big mamma jamma there. In the movie, he had a very different name, and I don't know if this name was his original name from the Japanese version, but it was a Gershwick, if I do remember correctly. Yeah, Gershwishka. Yeah. Gerwishka. And a lot of stuff in Battle Angel Alita has a lot of Germanic naming conventions to it, especially in the later chronicles, such as Last Order and Mars Chronicles use a lot more of the German names than the original series, since this was first printed in like 1994, I want to say. Probably wrong on that, but anyways. But let's talk a little bit about Gershwishka, or Makaku, as I will now refer to it since this is the name I'm most familiar with. I felt, and I think you were saying this too to me earlier in the car, that Makaku in the movie, or Gershwika, he didn't... I feel that they didn't really do a good job of him. They did a good enough job in kind of keeping within the PG-13 rating, because in the original manga, And I'm going to have a little slideshow presentation to show this. Macaco ate brains. He ate people.
Brains, I won't lie. I'll eat a brain till she's zombified. Sure, she might think it's deranged, but she won't give it a thought after I've eaten her brain.
Yeah, hard to fit in eating brains in a PG-13 rating, but that's not the most important part that I want to talk about. What I want more to talk about is kind of how they handled his backstory. In the movie, Gershwick briefly mentions to Alita when they're in the underground sewers, like, this was once my home. And that's about it.
Yeah.
That's all we get for his backstory and whatnot. But in the manga, there's a lot more into it. We learn that he was flushed down into the sewers as a mere infant, that he sustained himself just based off of the filth and waste that washed down in the sewers and hunting rats and eating them, and how he would look up at the outside world and wish he could be up there, but horrible people had spilled acid and set him on fire. And then he was found by Dr. Nova, which recreated him as basically a maggot cyborg, where he writher around and take over other cyborg and android bodies. And he was a mean mamma jamma in the manga. The movie version, he's a big brute. He's just a big obstacle, and that's fine for the movie's purpose, but they kind of left a lot of his character in the manga.
Yeah, they really did. And I feel like in the manga, he was definitely, creepy. He was icky, gross, and he was just, kind of a threat. And then I feel that in the movie, it was just kind of like you said, he's just a big brute to be there.
He's the muscle.
He, socialized with other people. He was, a part of that, group of 3 or so.
Yeah, a group of assassins.
Yeah, and it's just, that's not really the Macaco I'm thinking of from the manga. He's more of the loner, the creepy type, and I just feel like they could have made him way grosser.
Way grosser, really. I mean, sure, he does some despicable acts such as killing a puppy, but in the manga, he steals a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, killing a puppy is a horrible crime in and of itself, but still, they could have gone much further. They could have done the puppy and stealing Kogomi the baby, which, by the way, Koyomi did not appear in the movie, whereas in the manga, she actually develops as a character as you read through Battle Angel Alita. Don't know what they're going to do, or if they're even going to have Koyomi in the movieverse, but here's hoping, thank you China, that we do get a Battle Angel 2. Really hope that we do, because I really want to see this as a franchise.
Yeah.
Now, I know from watching the OVA that the movie definitely borrowed some elements in the OVA. One of those elements was the female doctor. Let's see if I can find her. Chirin. I believe her name is here. I'll get a little picture up here. In the movie, Chirin, played by Academy Award winner actress Jennifer Connelly. In the movie, I feel they really did a good job in developing her character, because I know you haven't seen the OVA, but I'm going to spoil a little bit of it for you.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Sorry. In the anime, she didn't really have anything. She wasn't connected to Dr. Ido, like she mentions in the anime, that they were doctors up in Typirus before, but they were relegated down to here, and they kind of keep that in the movie, but they add an extra thing that I think really makes her a lot more interesting as a character.
Yeah.
They make her Ido's ex-wife.
Mm-hmm. Which I liked. I'm all here for the love and the romance and the ex-relationships and stuff, so...
Tell me about that drama.
It was okay, who is this girl? When I first saw her on screen, I was like, wow, who is that? And then I saw the thing here, and I was like, oh. And then, you find out that she was, Ido's ex, and they had a daughter and all that.
Speaking of Ido's daughter, In the manga, Ido kind of cobbled together Alita's body from stuff that he would find in the scrapyard. Or, in one instance, Alita assumed he killed other cyborgs in order to get the parts. Which, again, this is spoiler review. Turns out he wasn't. He was trying to kill the person that was killing those innocent women. Mm-hmm. But he just so happened to take their body parts from them. But that's a different story. In the movie, though, Alita's doll body was actually originally meant for Ido's daughter, who had sadly passed away when a patient of Dr. Ido's, while in a drug-induced state, murdered her in front of his eyes, which kind of led to the breakup between him and Sharon, and Dr. Ido becoming a mercenary hunter as a way of him trying to atone for himself. What did you think of Jennifer Connelly's performance?
Oh, she is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. She was rocking that style.
Yeah, I really liked her. Like, she came in, she was like a bad bitch. Okay. When I saw her, I was like, ooh, she's got the money. She's got the fame. Like, I really like her. Like, I want to know more about her. Because I haven't seen, like, the OVA or that anime.
It's the OVA.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of them. So, when I saw her, I was like, okay, I had no idea who this character was. So, that was interesting. That was a nice little treat. Because I kind of felt like seeing the movie was going to be, like, maybe a repeat of, like, the first couple volumes, maybe. So
yeah.
It was nice to get something new in there that I didn't really know of or didn't really expect at all.
That little surprise factor.
Yeah, I liked it.
I was questioning why they include the OVA, and maybe I'll probably review it someday on the channel along with the original manga, but honestly, when I first saw the OVA, I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
To say the least. What do you mean, yeah?
Well, you won't ever let me buy it.
I only said that... Never mind, this is a different conversation. But I will say that even though they borrowed some stuff from the OVA, I'm kind of glad they did, as it did add more to the story. But another big change that I think we can talk about is Hugo in the movie.
Oh, Hugo.
I know, this is spoiler talk.
Him.
In the movie, he was played by Kian Johnson. Though in some of the conceptual art, they had a very different look for Hugo in mind. On the page there, you'll see a concept art that was done in 2005 of what they kind of envisioned Hugo to look like in the movie. And that's what we got.
Yeah.
Not saying he's not a bad-looking guy, and
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, but I mean, just looking at some of this concept art of him and Alita there, like strolling around town.
He looks like a totally different guy. And
He actually looks like a guy that
would be in the scrapyard.
that would be in the scrapyard, whereas
Yeah.
this guy's like, I just stole my dad's car,
Yeah,
and I
he
want
kinda
to take a
looks like that,
roll around town.
that teen heartthrob type of guy versus this guy. Like, he could be a heartthrob, but
He could be a
looks
heartthrob.
he looks tough. Like,
He looks tough.
I like the look of him, and I feel like a lot of the times they do this in movies where it's just like, oh, you know.
Now don't get us wrong. Kian Johnson did a fine job with
Yes,
playing Hugo.
I loved him. He did a great job.
That being said, just
I know.
saying.
I will say that with the whole Alita and Hugo thing, I adored it. Because I felt like in the manga, it was just like, okay, what's happening here? It didn't, like, catch me emotionally. But in the movie now, I don't know what happened, but I was so into this love story that was just slowly developing.
And that's the beautiful
love
thing,
it.
how the movie did it. In the manga, Alita doesn't meet Hugo until, like, the second volume.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. She's still battling Makaku at the
right.
beginning of the second volume, but she
Yeah.
doesn't meet Hugo until right after Makaku's big fight, which they also edited completely from the original source material. The big final battle began and ended in the underground in the original source. But yeah, Hugo in the manga, They did a great job in kind of portraying, like, this being, Alita's first crush, and kind of the little Romeo and Juliet aspect of it, in that it was a tragedy of a romance to begin with. Again, this is spoiler talk, so we're just going to be ruining a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's okay. Some of the differences, which I kind of would have liked to have seen from Hugo in the movie that Hugo in the manga did. Like, Hugo in the manga, he just looked like a kid brat.
He did.
But then again, also, Alita did also look very young in her first body.
Yes, I do agree. I was kind of thinking, I'm like, she just looks young in general, but
Yeah, she does.
yeah, like looking at this first volume, she looks much older than when we start out with her.
Yeah, and as the manga progresses and she gets different bodies, she gets more and more older looking.
Yeah. And one thing I would say is that I liked how the movie had them be like just a notch a little bit older than what you imagine they are in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's more relatable.
Oh, to be fair, Alita is over 600 years old.
Well, we don't know that.
I know.
When she's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing that I kind of wish that they might have borrowed a little bit more from the manga was how Hugo reacted when he wakes up in his new cyber body.
Yeah.
Again, this is the spoiler talk. Hugo is being hunted. Yes.
No.
It's my nervous tick, and I can choose to show it to my fans if I want to. I may edit that out.
Yes.
Probably not. Anyways, what in the manga and the movie, Hugo's being hunted, or framed rather, for the murder of some of his cohorts. He gets killed, and Alita is the one that has to decapitate him. But she gets around this by having her life support system into his brain, so that his brain remains alive long enough for her to get her to Ido to transplant and do surgery on him. Now, in the manga, Alita did all this herself. She, fed the tubes into Ido's head, disembodied head, in order to keep him alive. Hugo's head. Thank you. Hugo's head. Whereas in the anime, in the live-action movie, I should put that down. In the live-action movie, instead, Chirin came out of nowhere, really.
Yeah.
And, after seeing Alita, struggling, crying, and she went over and tried to help them out and did surgery. That does explain how they were able to keep him alive that way, because it was a professional doctor that did it.
Right.
But in the same instance, I kind of wish, because the scene before, Chirin was all the way at the
motorball.
Yeah, motorball tournament, and Alita had to go through several streets and blocks in order to find Hugo.
It was a journey. I felt like she went way across town.
And Chirin got all the way over there in heels? Bitch, please, how'd you get all the way over there?
No.
Maybe it's something that is in the director's cut when it comes out on Blu-ray, but deleted scenes, who knows?
Yeah.
But that's not the important part. The important part is when Hugo wakes up. In the movie, he takes it pretty well, from what I remember. He kind of wakes up, he sees Alita, he's consoled, but they both hold hands in their robotic hands. In the manga, Hugo freaks out.
Yeah.
He is completely decimated, looking at his body horrified, and say, how could you understand? How could you understand this? And, really saying some really mean things to Alita.
Yeah.
And it's actually him and Alita that confront Victor, whereas in the movie, it's just Alita that confronts Vector. Another aspect that they kind of gave they gave Dr. Nova more of a role in the beginning of the story than he did in the manga. We only get a mention of Nova in the Makaku fight, and then don't hear back from him until well into the 3rd or 4th volume of the manga. Whereas the movie kind of builds up Dr. Nova as kind of this omnipresent force that is pulling the strings and like coordinating all this with Vector, with Churin, with not Makaku. And everything that happens in the scrapyard is kind of being directed by Dr. Nova.
Yeah.
Which I won't spoil in the end, the actor that plays Dr. Nova, but if you pay attention to the eyes during the movie, any Marvel fans will have a dead giveaway as to who his identity is. Clever on the filmmaker's part, and I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay.
So,
I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know.
But those are the major plots in the movie that I felt differed a bit from the manga, which is fine. The only one I really had a problem with was Makaku, was kind of underutilized, but I understand. We got some hints of things to come. We got a name drop of Jashugan, the champion motorball champion. The champion of motorball, Jashugan, was name dropped and shown in the movie, giving sequel bait a high priority, as well as other things that were mentioned here and there. But was there anything you wanted to talk about spoiler-wise, honey?
Spoiler-wise, I just want to say that I love all the brown in the movie, like his Doc Ido's assistant. Mm-hmm. I loved.
I
don't remember her name.
I have it here.
Hugo's friends. The
There
one
she is. Nurse Gearhad. Gearhad.
which they don't mention in the movie.
They don't mention her name,
Yeah,
but
I was super excited. I love that. I liked seeing all the other people in the scrapyard too, which, I mean, I guess, in manga you don't really portray like, oh, everyone's a different shade of skin and all that. So.
Vector was African American in the manga.
He was, but I'm just saying it was like really cool to see people in the scrapyard of like all different cultures and all different skin tones and stuff.
I love
that was cool.
Yeah, I love the set design in general in the scrapyard. It kind of felt like a little bit like Aladdin.
I was just gonna say it felt like Agrabah.
It felt like
Agrabah. More,
metallic.
Maybe.
Steampunk Agrabah.
I really liked that. I liked the whole, I liked seeing Hugo's kind of story with everything, like how he was, how they were kind of attacking the people and taking their parts and all that. Mm-hmm. That was interesting because I felt like in the manga, it just didn't really click with me as well.
It was mentioned, but it wasn't really.
Seeing it was a totally different thing, and then with his friend, that was really sad.
When Zapan sliced his friend to frame him, to frame Hugo.
That was sad. I did not like that at all.
No, they did a good job in keeping Zapan's asshole-ish nature.
Yeah.
And also his face as well, the scene with him getting sliced with his face. It's kind of interesting, though, too, that they gave... And I have to look back in the manga, but I don't remember Zapan having the Damascus blade.
Yeah, that's...
And there's some things that they left out from the manga, like for example, when Alita first meets Hugo, they are attacked by a person who turns into a werewolf. Yeah, that's a random piece of trivia for you right there. At one point, there were werewolves in Alita Battle Angel.
Yeah. Can we talk about Motorball?
Yes, let's talk about Motorball.
I loved Motorball. I loved all the scenes. I loved the whole, just atmosphere. Because when you're reading it in the manga, it feels, totally different. It feels like, because, okay, spoilers, but Alita kind of, goes off and she's, isn't she mad at Doc Ido for, a while?
She's, mad at the world in general. She was basically using Motorball as a coping mechanism to kind of get over the loss of Hugo.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just like how in the movie Doc Ido was using the being a headhunter to kind of get over the loss of his daughter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I hope that they carry that over to the sequel.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that'd be good character development on their part.
Yeah. Well, I liked Motorball and Alita because it felt more of like... definitely felt like a competition, but I feel like in the book, I liked how like together some of the people were, like, because she worked with a couple of the other guys, right? Yeah,
She did. She worked with a couple of guys, from a mechanic to I forget the chick's name. We'll probably place name right here. To even some of the other motorballers.
Yeah.
She gets more of a friendship with.
That's what I really did like in the manga, but I hope they come back to Motorball. They're definitely probably going to.
Oh yes, they have to
next
in the
movie.
sequel.
Yeah.
Name dropping Joshua Gunn and some of the other motorballists were also mentioned in there, but I can't remember the names right now.
Yeah.
But yes, Motorball was fantastic. Robert Rodriguez, as a director, always has had a fantastic eye for detail when it comes to action sequences. I haven't seen many of his action-related movies, but I have seen, well, of course, any kid from the 90s or early 2000s had seen Spy Kids.
I love Spy Kids.
I've also seen Till Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
That one also had fantastic action beats to it too. I need to see Sin City. I hear that one's a good one of his. But the way he filmed the action, you were able to keep track of it and yet still keep the frenetic energy of it. Like she does like a whole bunch of moves during the motorball action, from like using the motorball itself to smash a guy's head in, or snap off a guy's leg with another guy's arm and whatnot. And sure, it's all CG and whatnot, but
It looks good.
It looks real good.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
I just loved everything about Motorball. And the whole transition was it was smooth. I felt in the book it was so rough.
Well, yeah,
it's like all of a sudden Alita's doing some Motorball thing. Like, I remember reading that volume and I was like, what is going on right now? And in the movie, it just flowed well. You understood why she was doing it. It was fun for her. Like, it made sense.
They introduced it early on in the movie.
They did, yeah.
Which was a good move on their part. They introduced Hugo and Motorball early on in the story so that it wasn't as jarring as it was in the manga.
Yeah.
On the manga side of things, I know Yukito Kishiro kind of uses Alita Battle Angel and that universe to kind of tell the stories that he wants to tell. After the second volume, he wanted to try something in the way of a shonen tournament style, but with a little bit of a twist. And in this case, he invented the sport of this death race style motorball. Or I guess you could say murder ball. So, final thoughts on Alita Battle Angel. Watch it. Rent it. Buy it. Own it in your collection. This is MangaMan's seal of approval. 10,000 thumbs, likes up.
Ooh, that's a lot.
It is by far, and this is coming from the MangaMan, so you know it's true. It is the best live-action adaptation of a Japanese property I have ever personally seen. Period. I'm keeping this all in.
No.
Yes.
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really good. I feel like anybody is gonna like watch this movie and probably love it. It was fantastic. You've got the action, you've got the story, you've got something that I can't compare this to any other movie really. You know, it stands on its own. Everything is great. I love the characters. I love the dialogue. I just loved everything about it. So it's definitely a very, 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 very good film.
Very good film. Even if you haven't read the manga or seen the OVA, this is a good movie, and if I dare say, it might make you an Alita Battle Angel fan yet.
Yay!
Yay! So, anyway, leave some comments down below on your thoughts of Battle Angel Alita. This is spoiler-free. No, this is spoiler review. The other one in the description box is spoiler-free. So, in this video, Please comment your favorite spoiler-related content in my other video. Please keep it spoiler-free.
Yes.
Thank you, and again, this has been the MangaMan.
And Kitty.
Sayonara.
Bye.
Final thoughts on the movie.
You go first. Don't spring that on me.
Well, you brought it up.
It was an idea. I didn't want to answer yet, though.
Okay.
I don't know what this was. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm keeping this all in.
Oh, please don't.